Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to our video for the day.
So we've been asked a lot lately about our adoption through comments and stuff like that. And so we decided today that we're gonna sit down and talk about our adoption a little bit more and kind of go over some questions we've got. And plus we found some other questions that we wanna discuss as well. So the first question is,
when did you begin to think about adoption and at what age? I thought about adoption growing up. I mean, I always thought it would be cool to adopt kids. As somebody that always wanted a family, I always thought that that would be cool to adopt. Like, I thought that would be the cool thing, would be to adopt. So, I mean, I was probably pretty young.
I think we always kind of had it in the back of our minds though, because when we started dating and stuff, we always kind of knew that there was a good chance we may never be able to conceive a child on our own. And so we always kind of discussed it right off the bat, wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. So, and then we were pretty young when we started dating. We were probably what? 19-ish. And so we were pretty young when we started the adoption process, and when most people found out how young we were when we adopted and started the adoption process, people thought it was a little bit crazy how young we really were, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Did you or your spouse bring it up? I brought it up. I was the first one to bring it up. Because I knew going into the relationship that I had issues with fertility, so I brought it up originally, and then we just both kind of talked about it all the time.
When did you start the adoption process? Why? And why then?
So we started the adoption process, I mean, because we had talked about it since we first got married. But we started the adoption process once we had been married for, about a year and a half once we started the beginnings of the process.
Yeah.
And the reason we started then was because we'd gone through a year and a half of infertility and going to specialists, and I went through tons of treatments and all sorts of invasive things, and with no success, doctors basically told us that we needed to move on.
And we also decided that, and we found out through, personal revelation and stuff like that, that adoption was the way that we were supposed to bring a child into our family. And one thing that we did when we went into adoption is we never went looking for a child, we always went looking for our child.
Oh, how many children do you want?
Want?
That's a trick
or what
question.
We're going to have. I think if we could have it the way we wanted, we'd probably have 4, maybe?
I would take in all the babies. I'm just putting that out there right now. I would have all of them. Every child out there that needs a home, they would be mine, if I could do it. Realistically, yes, going into marriage, we both wanted 4. That's how many we wanted. But
as we started parenting and stuff, and just the cost of adoption and the needs of being open with their birth families and stuff like that, we'll probably have 2, maybe 3 children.
Maybe 3.
It kind of depends, and we'll always keep
like foster care, things like that in the back of our heads. I don't know.
Yeah, but we want to make sure we do what's right for our family, number 1.
Now that we have Jax, he's number 1. So we always have to make sure we keep him in mind before we go on the process again.
Yep.
So.
How long was your adoption process from start to finish?
So from the time we first met with a caseworker to the time that we were placed with Jax, because we did have 2 failed placements before him.
And if you don't know that story, go and watch our story, and if I remember, I'll link it here.
And that'll talk about
Here? Who
somewhere.
knows?
But from start to finish, from the first meeting with the caseworker and like when we got approved for adoption to when we were actually placed with Jax, it was 2.5 years.
Which I think is pretty quick for the most part. Especially with having some failed placements in the middle. Each failed placement, we only had a couple months in between.
Well, from the time that we were approved for adoption to our first failed placement, that was, that was, I mean, it was like 4 months when we got chosen, but by the time the baby was born, it was 8 months. So from getting approved to when we had our failed placement the first time, it was 8 months for the first one, so, which still is fast for a lot of agencies.
But it's never fast when you're going through that process.
No, never. Especially 2.5 years. It's up.
What was the hardest part of the adoption process, and what was the easiest? I think I'll say the easiest right off the bat. A lot of people complain about like the paperwork and everything like that. We just kind of busted right through it, and it wasn't a big deal to us.
Well, and I think that because my thing is a birth family, they want to see you for who you are. So when you're answering questions or filling out paperwork, it should just come naturally, because it should be truth coming straight from your soul, from your heart. So like when we were filling out these questions,
We just filled them out.
It was easy. Like our words just flew, you know, flowed.
I think the important part when you're going through the adoption process is not fake who you are.
No.
You need to be yourself, because when you adopt, and especially with an open adoption, the relationship you have with the birth family is going to be forever. And if you don't start out on the right foot, it's going to go bad and sour real fast. And that's not the relationship that we wanted.
I mean, like if you were to read through our adoption profile, it would probably crack you up, because like some of the things we said were just ridiculous, like hilarious, but we were ourselves. Like we cracked jokes and there was funny things in it. And I mean, I think we made
and some things were bland.
I think we made references to like farting and like just funny things. Like we were just ourselves, like we were just normal, and that's obviously what worked. I don't know.
What was the hardest part?
The hardest part was going through failed adoptions. I mean, having a child in your arms, bringing a child into your home, and then having them ripped away from you. I would not wish that upon anyone.
But with saying that, I think we would do it again.
Oh, I would do it tenfold. I would do it 10 more times to be able to get Jax again.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it almost feels, it's hard to say it, but it almost feels as if it didn't happen. And you can kind of look past that.
Yeah.
Because of the end result of Jax. Yep. He's just perfect.
Would you do it again? Yes, we would adopt again. Obviously, we want to adopt again. We are hoping to adopt now. Plug it in here. If you know of anybody looking to place a child for adoption, boom, keep us in mind, suckers.
Yeah, but again, like I said, you know, we have people that bring us situations all the time to us, but we are always making sure the situation's right for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna just take any child. And as horrible as that sounds, saying that out of my mouth just sounds ridiculous. But if you think about it in like terms of every child is meant for a certain family. That's how we feel. And so we feel like when we are presented with that situation that is meant for our family, we'll know. And that's when you'll see another little one over here.
Another little Jackson. Can you imagine another Jackson's video?
But I want it to be a girl next time.
Yeah.
I would never specify ever, but it would be awesome to have a little girl.
I agree. What is the most common question you get, and what is the most annoying? So the most common question we get,
what race is he? Or what's another one that we get a lot?
Or how much did he cost?
Yeah, how much did he cost? That falls under the most annoying question as well.
Yeah.
Don't ever ask somebody how much their baby cost, okay? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. One of the other questions that I think we get a lot, well, that I get a lot, that is definitely the most annoying is, and I guess it's more of a statement than a question, but people tell me all the time, oh, well, since you've adopted, now you're gonna get pregnant. Adoption doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, it's not like a magical cure for infertility. Just because we've adopted a baby does not mean that my womb all of a sudden works. Doesn't work.
Does Jax know that he's adopted, and how did we tell him? Right off the bat, yeah. Well, let me say that again.
Obviously, he's always known that he's adopted. He's always going to know. We have an open adoption, so that's the point of an adoption, our adoption relationship.
I don't think he understands the idea of adoption yet.
No, but he's only 2.5. Like,
yeah.
He's not, you know, but we're always going to, he knows he has a birth mom. I don't think he quite grasps that concept yet.
Nor should he. But we always want to make it so it's something that he knows about and that we're teaching him about, so he needs to know where he's coming from and his biological family. I think it's the most healthy way to do it. A lot of people don't agree. A lot of people don't agree, but
I think it's the healthiest way to raise an adopted child is to know where they come from. That, I think, it will help in the long run with a lot of the questions that you sometimes, like in the movies, they portray adoption as this big, like, I'm gonna go find my real mom, you're not my real mom, blah, 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 blah.
And I guarantee we'll get that.
And I'm sure things like that happen, and I'm sure we'll get questions like that. But I think teaching him from the start where he came from and having him already have a relationship with that family, because they're part of our family, I think it'll help kind of resolve some of those future possible issues.
Are you in contact with Jax's birth family, and to what extent? Is a question we actually get quite a bit. And we have a good amount of contact with them. As you can see, they've been in our vlog several times. We try to get together with them as much as we can. Schedules are always difficult, but we're always open to getting with them as long as as long as we both have time. One of my favorite things in the world is to see Jax with his birth family, because it's just fun to see that natural bond and connection. It really is. It's so immediate and natural that even though he maybe hasn't seen them, or maybe he doesn't really remember them a whole lot, that it's immediate and it does happen.
Our situation is kind of neat as well, because a lot of adoptive families, they only have contact with the birth mother. It's sad, but in I would say most situations, the birth father is not in the picture. And that is one thing that we have been very blessed with, is that Jax's birth father is in the picture as well. He doesn't play as active of a role in his life. He's not as, doesn't communicate as much with us, but he is still just as open. We're still just as open with him. You know, he gets the same amount of updates and the same amount of love, and Jax loves him just as much. And I think that's cool that he can have both sides of his family. And I mean, he has...
And siblings as well.
Siblings. He has like, I don't know, 10 brothers and sisters, I think, you know? So it's like, he has a huge family, and that, we've talked about this too, like that's a huge blessing for us on our part, because we may never have another child. I mean, it's a real possibility that we could have only Jax. He still has a family. Like, he has brothers and sisters and all these other family members because of adoption, and I think that's cool too. So do you tell people about adoption, or that he's adopted, or do you avoid the subject?
I think it's important for Jax to be able to tell his own story for the most part. Like, we don't go to the store and say, hey, he's adopted, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we never give out like details, unless it's somebody that we feel like we're comfortable sharing that with. You know, we try not to tell too much of his story. It is his story to tell. But yeah, no, I mean, if somebody were to ask us, or like, I'll get comments all the time like, oh my gosh, his eyes are so beautiful. Where, you know, who does he, because you know, they can tell his eyes are not from me. Who does he get his eyes from? You know, and then that'll start like a kind of a natural conversation. We'll like go around, hey guys, he's adopted. Hey guys, he's adopted. Hey guys, he's adopted. But it's not something that we skirt away from or shy away from telling people.
How has adoption changed your views on parenting? And this is actually, I think, my favorite question. As somebody that's going through adoption, we had to go through a lot of classes and stuff like that. It made us really think about how we want to parent our kid. And I think we have put just a lot more thought and more preparation into becoming a parent. And
not only that, we had to fight so hard to become a parent in the first place. I mean, we tried. I mean, we tried for years and years to get pregnant and to have a family on our own. I mean, we've been married for almost 7 years, and we are still trying to have a family on our own, and it's probably never ever going to happen. And so having Jax, it's something that we both wished for and hoped for and prayed for so long, that I feel like we don't miss a step. We don't take advantage of any moment in his life. I mean, as you guys can tell me, we document every second of our lives, and it's for that purpose, because we don't want to miss anything. We don't want to feel like we've missed out on a single moment in his life, because he's so special and means so much to us, and we love him so deeply. I mean, it like hurts my heart sometimes how much I love him. Jax filled my heart in. Going through an adoption process, because you go through hell, literally, we went through hell. It made us stronger because of that.
And one thing that's
just cool.
One thing that's a little bit different with us, while we were going through the adoption process and we had failed placements, whenever we had those failed placements, we worked on us.
Yes.
And instead of worrying about the issue that actually happened or mourning like ridiculous amounts, we spent time on each other. We spent time on each other, because that's the number one thing I think that is the most beneficial. If, as a husband and wife, if we're as connected as we are and love each other as much as we do, it's easier to love a child. It's easier to love them, but I think that's gonna help the child out just that much more in the long run. Yeah. That was a long answer.
I love that question. And then the last question is, what advice would you give to somebody else considering adoption?
I think I would say, whenever somebody asks me that, I kind of go with the answer I gave a little bit earlier, and then in working on yourselves while you're in the process, you know, try to get...
Don't forget about your relationship in the adoption process.
Yes, don't forget about your relationship in the adoption process. To work on yourselves, to become the best couple as you can be, because that strength, when you have a new baby in the home, sometimes when you have a new baby in the home, it's difficult. You're losing sleep, you know, it's just a different situation, where when you have a good relationship,
you fall back on each other easier.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think some of the most important things is, like Kurt said, build your own relationship. That's number one priority between you and your significant other, or your partner, or your spouse, whatever the situation may be. And we're Christians, so build your relationship with God as well. Make sure that bond is strong also. And then just make sure that you're open. You're never gonna find the child, because like we've said before, you're never gonna find the child that is right for your family.
Couldn't agree more.
If you are not open to the situation. You have the power. You can put down whether you want
a boy,
a girl, a white baby, an African American child, an Asian child. You can take a child between this age and this age, or with these diseases, with this amount of drug use, with this amount of alcohol use. I mean, there are hundreds of factors that you can choose. In our situation, and not every situation is the same, but we felt like we needed to be open to pretty much anything in order for the right child to come into our home. We would never judge anyone for their choices, because obviously those choices that they made were best for their family.
So we appreciate you guys for watching.
Basically, just be cool and be yourself, and everything will work out fine.
Yep. So like I said, we appreciate you guys for watching. If you guys have any other questions for us, we want to continue to do these through this vlogging process, because this is one of the number one reasons why we vlog, is to put adoption out there in a good way. And so ask them, leave a comment down below, please. And if you guys don't know our adoption story, we'll link it down below as well. It already is. I think it's in every video. It's our story.
Our story.
And so go watch it.
Just watch our video, okay?
Okay, we will see you guys again tomorrow.
Mañana.
Peace out.
Follow the echo of my voice. He gave up. There we go. There's my spot. See, there you go. You found your secret tunnel.
In our dreams, by the way, oh, I got this story that I didn't do in no. Mommy, Daddy, there it is.
Under the mistletoe, and cherish all these simple things.
Maybe 18.
Oh, why?
Oh, I that this mess to me. That this mess down in my eyes. That down those bones in the dark. In all that things by this misery. Oh, I that this mess to me.